is be who you are. Love who you are. Love what you can accomplish. Love what it is that you can do. And try not to work on somebody else's standards, right? It's your journey. You got to do what feels good for you. And every step that you take is a good one.
Want more Rolling with Tay podcasts? Well, follow on Instagram and Twitter at Rolling with Tay. Visit the blog rollingwithtay.wordpress.com for more content and be sure to sign up for the monthly newsletter. And lastly, subscribe to the YouTube channel Rolling with Tay. This is the Rolling with Tay podcast. I'm your host Tasia, aka Tay, and this is episode 8, and my guest is Kees. Welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, Tez. It's fantastic and fantastic to be here. I'm really excited to join the podcast.
Thank you for being a guest. Now, Kees and I met last year working on the TCS NYC Marathon in New York City, and he was talking about all the cool activities that he was into, like running, scuba diving, snowboarding. And I was like, I have to have him on the podcast. I have to have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, you seem like the person, right, that has gone to these cool places to do these epic things, like scuba dive in Tahiti, or mountain bike in Spain, or run a marathon in Japan, which you probably have. Snowboard.
Not yet, but it's on the list.
Oh, you haven't? Wow.
Yeah.
And like snowboarding in the Swiss Alps. Like, you seem like that person.
It's yeah. I mean, if I see an interesting thing to do, I usually set my mind to it and I just get to it and do it. So we only have one life, and I really don't feel like wasting it on a compromise.
Ooh, I like that. I like
Hmm.
that. Okay, so let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is
Okay.
Kees?
Yeah. So I'm Kees. I grew up in both the Netherlands and the United States. I've been traveling back and forth my entire life, but for the last 30 plus years, I've been living in the New York area. Uh, I have two very energetic sons, 15 and 17, who both play varsity baseball in the New York City school system, and they pretty much were one of the big inspirations for me trying to get fit, stay fit, and then keep at it, because those boys got a lot of energy, and the thought of falling behind them was really hard to take, just back when they were real young. So that's where I think a lot of my drive comes from, to show them that anything is possible, that you can do anything as long as you put a lot of work into it.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up.
No.
Keeping you young.
That's and the funny thing is, they look at me with everything that I do, and they're exhausted just listening to me. So I don't know whether I may have taken it a few steps too far, but I'm hoping that as they get older, they'll start to work on some of the same energy levels that I have.
I'm sure they will. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. All right, so
Mhm.
which is the beginning? Is it running? Is it, what did you get into first?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, well, I back way back in 1999, I was with somebody, and we decided to take a 6 month trip to travel around the world. I'd never done a travel around the world trip, and the thought was that we would live on a really tight budget, but we would keep a separate budget for scuba diving. So we went to Belize for about a month and went to a little island called Key Hawker, which back then was pretty underdeveloped, and hooked up with a scuba diving school, and got our certification. And from there on, just kept traveling westward and spent the next 5 6 months everywhere we went. When there was a good place to go scuba diving, we hooked up with a boat, with a land-based operation, whatever it was, and got in the water. And that really opened my eyes in a lot of ways. First of all, to to scuba diving. Obviously, the world down there is so large.
Mm.
You know, 70% of the world is ocean, right? And even when we're diving, we just get to see one tiny little sliver of it. But our field of vision when we're down there is so humongous. You know, it's like looking at a 360-degree color screen, and just everything has colors all everywhere you look, up, down, left, right, and it really mesmerized me from the first time I went into the water until now. I still take at least 2 dive trips a year, uh, and so that's where that started. Uh,
Mm.
Going back earlier, you know, as a youngster, I played soccer growing up in the Netherlands. It's kind of what everybody does. But I also played baseball because I spent my summers in the United States, and you know, Dutch people thought that was a little bit weird. But we'd have one team per city, and we travel around to different cities and kind of try and make that happen. And so that was my earlier years, and then things kind of took a let's say they took a rock and roll pause as I got more into music and got more into exploring that side of the world. And so right around my 30th is when I started to get the physical activities back.
Mm.
And I really found out that my body and brain operate a lot better when I have a lot of physical activities packed in today.
That has to be like, I've seen scuba diving videos, and it just looks so amazing. Like, it just, I wish I could one day do that. I think you have to, don't you have to know how to swim to do that?
You
Scuba
do have
dive?
to know how to swim, how
Okay,
to do
see,
that.
yeah,
So.
so once I learn how to swim, then
Yeah.
I do want to scuba dive. Like, I that seems like, it seems really cool.
Yeah, it's a whole different world. I mean, you know, I live in New York City where we're cramped on top of each other, and there's a lot of noise, and I you know I tend to fill up a lot of spaces with noise myself. And one of the things that I love is you're going on a 60, 70, 80-minute dive. There's no more talking,
Mm.
right? So and there's noise, but the noise is, you know, parrotfishes nibbling on coral. It's maybe it's 80 feet above, a little fishing boat going above, but for the most part, it's a really subdued sound,
Mm.
and you're really just with your thoughts in this peaceful space, looking at nature. So instead of visiting a zoo, you're in the zoo, you're part of it, and fish come and check you out, and they go away from you again. And it's yeah, that's a wonderful experience that I still, like I said, I try and keep at least 2 trips a year, you know, about a week at a time, where I go away and either go by myself, or I've got two good friends that I travel with and do these things with, and we just find our place, strap on our gear, jump in the water, and have some adventures.
Nice. What are where are some of the places you've been scuba diving?
Right. So, you know, for living in the Eastern United States, the Caribbean is obviously a closest place to go to. So, and me being Dutch, I have a proclivity to some of the Dutch foods that I can get in the Dutch Antilles. So I've spent a lot of time in Bonaire, spent a lot of time in Curacao.
Hmm.
And then my go-to for the last 5, 6 years for a quick fix has been Cozumel in Mexico. That's really been a place for me where I feel at home. I love the culture. I love the people there. I've made a decent amount of friends there. Uh, and in particular, my dive master there is a uh, is a uh, is a fascinating gentleman. His nickname is Cubano. His name is Jorge, and he is one of the local Ironmen in Cozumel. And I've got the extra advantage to every day that the port closes due to high winds, we call each other up at 5 o'clock in the morning and we go run a half marathon together instead. So, you know, or he'll say, do you want to get on a bike and ride 100 kilometers? And say, well, let's do it, you know, because if he's got the energy, All I got to do is get in his wheel, and I know I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to see things that I never would be able to see if I decided I wanted to sleep late, if I decided I wanted to just lie by the pool. And that's really where a lot of this drive gets me from.
Yeah. No, I'm like that when I go on vacation or when I go anywhere. I'm like, let's go. I'm up early. Let's go. Let's go. Let's see. Let's have this adventure.
Yeah, yeah. My friends make fun of me, so I'm at least an hour before everybody else. And as I've gotten older, I've found that I really, in order to stave off injury, I need to do a lot of core work. So by the time my friends roll out of bed, they usually find me on a floor somewhere trying to do some crunches or trying to get into some yoga poses and trying to get my body ready for the day. Because I also do realize that this is finite, right? This fitness,
Yes. Yep.
and one of the big fears that I have is I'm 52 years old right now, and I feel like I'm the strongest I've ever been in my life. But I
Mm-hmm.
realize that there's a timeline involved here, and especially the scuba diving, I want to be doing that until I'm 80, 85 years old. And in order to do that, you need a back, right?
Oh, yeah.
You need a back. You need to be able to move your body. And so I'm a big believer in trying to keep myself as fit as I can while still living a good life. So you'll never see me dieting to misery or anything like that. I like a slice of pizza. I like a nice pint of beer. But I'm going to try and keep my body strong so I can keep doing what I want to do.
Yeah. That's
So, yeah. So sorry, I got sidetracked. So the scuba diving on the Caribbean side, it's that. And then I try, my best dive buddy lives in the Netherlands. And so we try and get to Asia every third, fourth year. So we've been to the Philippines. I've been to Thailand. Uh, did a little bit of scuba diving in Malaysia as well, and we're looking to get to Indonesia. From what I hear, next spring we're going to look to go there, which is where my dive buddy is his ancestry is from there, and so we'll try and get there. And to me, it's like the further away we can get, put me in the middle seat in the back of an airplane for 16 hours. I don't care. I fold up small and just take me somewhere new, and I'm ready for the experience.
wow. Wow. Oh my gosh. Damn, I want to travel with y'all. I don't know about the diving part because I can't scuba, I can't swim, but
Yep.
just
Yeah.
going to
Well,
these places.
there's other things to do as well, but I mean, it's these are the trips that we take, and so that's one side of it. And so the scuba diving is one part, and I want to say about 13 years ago, when I weighed in about 40 pounds heavier than I was right now, and I was having a tough time tying my shoe without running out of breath. And that's when I said, "Listen, I've got to do something." And so I was doing a job on 42nd Street on the west side, and I live in Brooklyn. And what I did is I started walking down the West Side Highway. This is the month of January, it's February, March. I started walking down the West Side Highway in the afternoons. So in the cold, but in the bright sunshine, I'd walk to World Trade Center, get on the train there, and then go home. And what I found, and this eventually led me to a real love of running, is
Mm,
that just by walking for 20 minutes, every worry that I had in my brain would just get released. And I would get on the subway, and I wouldn't be angry at the person standing too close to me that clearly hadn't showered in 3 days.
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't get annoyed with the person standing in front of the door. And I would find myself to just be much more patient. And so I said, all right, well, this is going to help me be a better father, a better husband, and I'm going to get fit. And that led to trying to circle Prospect Park while running, and it would take me about 5 stops per run in order to get there. And I would, my lungs would be burning, my legs would be burning, and I remember about 6 months of that. I eventually one day I came home and I was in tears, and my family asked me, said, "What's going on?" I said, "You guys don't understand. I left my house. I ran all the way around Prospect Park and I came home and I didn't stop once. I
Mm,
did it. I did it. And I mean, I get choked up now still remembering it. And I said, this is really something. And so then from there on, I had some friends in the building. They said, listen, let's sign you up for a race. And I signed up for the Brooklyn Half Marathon in 2010. And lo and behold, I ran that thing in an hour and 50 minutes. And everybody
Ooh.
looked at me and said, that's pretty fast for a non-runner. And I said, well, I guess I'm a runner now. And I've run the Brooklyn Half every single year, except for the COVID years when it didn't happen, and that's now become my special race where I get to celebrate. I get to celebrate this new fitness, and so that's when running really kind of jumped in for me. And now I've run 6 marathons. I'm leaving tonight for Rotterdam in the Netherlands. I'm going to run my 7th marathon on Sunday. And if everything goes well, I'm going to run. I'm going to run a time that's going to be close to or beat my best time ever at the age of 52. So I'm pretty excited for what's ahead.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah,
Listen, best of luck and keep me updated on your time.
yeah, that's going to be something. I mean, there's a lot of things that we know on race day. Uh, as you know, when you and I met at the New York City Marathon. It
Hmm.
was an unseasonably hot day,
Yes.
which was wonderful for us volunteers because we
Yes.
were we were very comfortable, but it had to have been miserable for the runners. And I talked to several of them after the race, and a lot of people had to forego their time goals and had to walk at times because it was just too much. So I feel pretty lucky with the temperatures that we have in New York today. I'm flying into Amsterdam where it's 55, 58 degrees during the day, and so that's more of a that's a better temperature to get my race done.
So, what did training look like for this race, your upcoming race?
Okay, so because I've done a few marathons now, I've learned a lot about what works for my body, what doesn't work for my body. I will tell you that the first one that I did a program where I ran three days a week, and that kind of meant I drank alcohol 4 days a week because every day I didn't have to run the next morning. I would go put a bunch of beers in me, and that clearly, that trained me enough to finish a marathon, but it wasn't enough to actually do something. So the program I've been using for the last few marathons is actually a Boston Athletic Association program called the BAA3. It runs about 5 to 6 days a week, and it incorporates a decent amount of hills to simulate the Boston course. And that program runs between 40 and 50 miles a week. So it's a pretty intense program, but I find that it brings me to a point where finishing a marathon is no longer a thought, and where if I run smart, I can really start to feel stronger as the race progresses. So just looking in the last 17 weeks, I've put 750 miles on my body,
Ooh,
and I'm tired and I'm creaky, and I've got some aches because it doesn't come for free. But I think I'm aerobically I'm ready to go at this point.
wow. Man.
So yeah. So what I do is I do a combination. I have a wonderful group on Tuesday mornings that I train with in Prospect Park.
Hmm.
We are part of the Prospect Park Track Club's early marathon training groups. We have a group that meets at 6:15 in the morning, and our motto is no nonsense, no yapping. At 6:15, everybody's warmed up and we're ready to go because everybody's got to get to work. So there's no talking about how everybody's days went and everything else. We just go and get it done. And so those have been my Tuesdays. My main running group is a group called We Are NYC Running Club, and I find those teammates in Central Park on the weekends to do my long runs with. I prefer to either go to Central Park or I take huge slices of Brooklyn and just go run in the direction and find that waterfront and try and find uninterrupted spaces. One of the things that's difficult about New York City is, as you know, we got a lot of street lights, we got a lot of
Hmm.
traffic, so we're always searching for a place where we can run uninterrupted for as many miles as we can. And so that for me, that's Brooklyn Waterfront, that's Central Park, that's Prospect Park.
On the weekends for your long runs, how much do you typically run? Like how many miles?
So this program, I mean, it tops out usually at 20 miles for the long run,
Okay.
but if that's the one day, then the other weekend day you'll run 10 more. So you'll run about 30 on the weekend. And a lot of it is based on getting your legs tired. So you're not training for the first 20 miles of the marathon, you're training for the last 10, the last
Mm,
15,
mm.
right? And so a lot of my, 14, 15 milers will be on the fifth consecutive day that I'm running. And maybe you're doing speed work one day and then easy the next day and long the third day. So you're really trying to get your legs tired. You're trying to get your body tired so that you can really work towards that end. And like I said, if I run according to the plan that I've set up, I should be getting stronger as the race goes. And
Mm.
then hopefully everything works until maybe the last 5K when it's just a pure gut it out and swear and curse and, and just go with willpower.
Oh, listen, best of luck to you this weekend. I know you'll do great. I'll be rooting for you here in the US.
Yeah,
Um,
it's going to be fun, and then I'm going to stop running for a little while. That's going to be the greatest. That's going to be the greatest. I uh, I heard an interview with Des Linden once, and who took a month off from running, and reporters asked her, said, what did you do with yourself? And I think, and I don't know the exact quote, but she said something to the extent of, said, I'm going to grow a couch out of my butt. And I said, that's a wonderful idea. So I'm seriously going to try and slow down a little bit and, just enjoy some things and then get to the secondary sports, right? Because it can't all be about running. I haven't touched my mountain bike, gosh, in 8, 9 months now. And it
what?
is, it is time to get back on that thing. The problem is when you're marathon training, you're scared of falling off the mountain bike because
Mm-hmm.
you put so much time in it. You go over the handlebars and you break your collarbone. You don't just lose the mountain biking, you lose all the training that you're involved in. So I think once I'm done with this race, I'm going to get back on the bike. I did manage to get some snow sports in this weekend, so that was good. Or sorry, this winter. But I'm really hoping to put more of an accent on that this coming winter as well. So I want to kind of get back to all the other sports that I do.
Oh, all right. And when you said this weekend, I'm like, well, where did you go this weekend? um,
No, I'm sorry, I'm a little delirious.
so, what's one piece of advice that you could offer runners?
I'm going to say you have to listen to yourself. You have to feel your body. If your body is trying to tell you something, it's trying to tell you something. And you can have the best training plan in the world, and there's definitely times to push through things. But if you've got a pain somewhere, listen to that pain. And when your training program says recovery on it, it means it. I think we tend to skip over a lot of the things that we don't like, right? I think that's a nature that we have. Uh, and the things that don't come natural to us. But there's a reason these programs are written. So that's my biggest piece of advice is listen to your body and listen to your training program. The other part and what's really helped me is work on your core. Running is repetitive. You're constantly pounding yourself into the pavement. And repetitiveness leads to injuries. And when you get injured, especially during a training program, there's very little chance to recover because you've got all these other runs on the schedule. So what's worked really well for me is to just have a 15 minutes daily where I try and take care of my core. I do just tiny little things with my hips, with my arms, try and put 5 minutes into every big muscle group and just keep my overall fitness in check. And I keep the level on that so easy that even when I'm dead exhausted, I really don't have an excuse not to just go ahead and get on the floor for a couple minutes. So, my wife and kids laugh at me because they wake up at 6 in the morning, and there's Dad lying in his underwear on the living room carpet trying to do crunches again and huffing and puffing. But I hope that as they see me doing this year after year, they understand that what I'm doing is I'm building and I'm maintaining strength for the long run.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, when I spoke to you, um, I was inspired by all the activities that you were doing, and I'm just like, wow, like you aren't letting age, you're not letting anything stop you. Like I said earlier, like you just, I want to do these activities.
Hmm.
Snowboarding, which you
Yep.
said you started at 50, like
Yeah, that was,
that's
I don't know how good of an idea that was, but that was definitely something. And I'm glad you brought it up because it's one of the parts of being, both being a dad and being stubborn. So I grew up in the Netherlands, which is flat as a pancake, and my mom had these wooden cross country skis, and 2 days out of the year, 3 days out of the year, there'd be some snow, and there we'd go. And I always looked at the more fortunate people that had a little bit more budget, and they'd go to the Alps and go downhill skiing. And I said, I want to learn how to do that. So fast forward 20 years, and I'm doing a job in Vermont, and one of the crew members I'm with says, let's rent some skis and, let's go down this mountain. And I said, well, you know, I was on cross country skis before. I'm sure I can do this. So we're at Stowe, Vermont, and what do I know? I think it's a little mountain or whatever. And we take the lift up to the top, and I said, "All right, what do I do now?" He said, "Point down, and let's go." And so about 15 seconds later, I'm lying in between the trees, upside down, about 5 feet into powder, with my thumb almost ripped out of my ligament
Oh my
because
gosh.
the straps of my boots, everything was a big mess. And I realized that, okay, this is a little bit different than cross country skiing. But I got back up again and said, all right, let's take it to a easier slope. And ironically, that day we were there in the afternoon, and after about an hour and a half, he saw my buddy saw what happened to me and said, let's go get some food. And went to a Mexican restaurant and had a beer, and then he gave me a shot of tequila. And I said, now let's go try it again. And as it turns out, once I loosened up a little bit, I got the hang of it, and I put in a good 10, 15 years of skiing and absolutely loved it. Only problem is I'm always looking at the snowboarders, and they're a little cooler. It looks a little cooler than skiing. It's kind of like the inline skaters look a little bit cooler than rollerblades. Or I think so anyway. And so when my oldest son was about 14, he said to me, Dad, I want to switch from skis to snowboard. And I said, listen, I'll go with you. But I heard that the learning curve really sucks, and
Mm-hmm.
that we're gonna hurt ourselves quite a bit. And he's like, well, if you're willing to give it a chance, I'm willing to give it a chance. So because I don't learn lessons very well, we drove to Gore, which is a mountain in New York, but it's definitely not one of the smaller mountains. And
Mm-hmm.
we got on snowboards, and yeah, day one was absolutely hell. It was, you're strapped in and both feet are connected to each other. And we took a lesson, and, that's when you feel your age, because every time you fall down, you have to unstrap, you have to get up again, and it's exhausting. And after day one, my son said, Dad, this was great. I'm going back to skiing tomorrow. I don't want to waste the whole weekend. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to take another lesson, and I'm gonna try it again. And I made it until about lunch, until finally my wife looked at me and said, you tried hard enough, but why don't you come and sit by the fire? And she's just afraid that I'm going to break every bone in my body. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of not a success, but I said, listen, I heard it takes 3 days. So 2 weeks later, we went to a little mountain just outside of New York City called Mount Peter. And if you know what you're doing, I'm sure it only takes about 30 seconds to get down the mountain. It's about three little turns. And I took my son with me, and lo and behold, we got the hang of it. We got down that little thing without falling, and we went back up again and did it again. And we took about 30, 35 runs that day and said, you know what, I think we've got the hang of it. And yeah, now I can get on my snowboard. And I can get down a medium-sized mountain pretty good. My son, who's obviously a lot more pliable than I am, he
Mm-hmm.
leaves me in the dust, and he just takes off and runs down the double blacks and everything else. But I'd listened to another friend of mine that said, "Case, you don't need to go down double black diamonds. You can just cruise the blues
Mm-hmm.
and you can enjoy yourself." And I've always had a thing with surfing. I've always had a thing with, snowboarding, but that carvy, groovy style. And, one day I found a bunch of powder, and I really understood that why they made a snowboard in the first place. And so I hope that I can stay fit enough that I don't have to go back to skis for a really long time to come. I really enjoy being on it, and being one of the older ones on a snowboard, and just, yeah, like you said before, kind of defying age with it and celebrating the fitness that I have. I fall down, but I've
Mm-hmm.
got enough muscle to pick myself back up again. I've got enough resolve to keep going, and I think that was actually a really good choice to switch over to the snowboard.
Snowboarding looks cool. That's another activity that looks cool. Haven't tried it. I'm barely on skis, so
Yeah,
I see the
well,
snowboard. I'm just like,
it's
mm.
you heard it from me. It takes 3 days,
Okay.
and really the smaller the mountain, the better, I would say, just so that just so you can get back down and get a break going back up on the lift again. But it was a learning curve, but here we are, right? What am I going to tell my son?
Right.
I'm not willing to learn this. It hurts too much. What kind of an example am I setting for him? So as long as I've got the strength in my body, I certainly have the strength in my brain. So let's go give it a shot, and let's see. And that really worked out. Uh, the other one with that is mountain biking.
Mm-hmm.
My boys, the Dutch, we grew up on bicycles, uh, do everything on a bicycle, but I'd never really gone mountain biking. And my kids, when they were 3 years old, I got them BMX bikes to learn how to ride on, and they learned, and they would immediately put down a piece of plywood and a traffic cone and find themselves a little ramp to do something on. And I said, all right, well, you guys want to go ride in the dirt? I said, I'll find a used mountain bike somewhere, and here we go. And so, yeah, it was a couple of years of me trying to teach my children how to ride, and now now let me put it the nice way. Now they wait for me after every 5, 6 turns until Dad comes around, because what I have in strength, I certainly don't have in recklessness anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that breaking bones after the age of 50 is kind of dangerous, a dangerous game, and my boys kind of have that reckless abandon. When they see a 6 foot drop, they'll take one look at it and then they'll go. And I look at it and I said, that's great for you guys, and I will take a video of you and I'll post it for you, but I'm not gonna hurt myself doing that anymore. So, and I have these days that I really wish I still had that fearlessness that they have, uh, because now, having the ability and all the toys at my disposal to do all the things, I would somehow wish that I had that, that like, I really don't care attitude, that
Mm-hmm.
they can have, and go with it. Of course, they don't have to think, if we break all of our bones, who's going to drive us home, right?
Exactly.
And that's kind of the situation that I sit with.
Listen, I'm thinking about the insurance. I'm thinking about a lot of things. Like I do inline skating. So when I was young, I'm jumping down the stairs. I'm jumping over stuff
Yep.
backwards. Now, after got back into it, I'm just like, let me walk down these stairs. Let me be very cautious. Like before, I didn't wear any protective gear. Now, what's uh, knee pads, wrist guards, helmet, like there's a
Yep.
lot that like I do not want to fall.
Did I hear that you're going to the Berlin Marathon?
Yes, 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 yes. I
That's
am going.
fabulous. So 2019, I was there for the run, and the inline skating race is the day before, and so I went with my with my roommate for that trip. We went to go look at the inline skaters, and man, I will tell you, I don't know how fast you go, but the beginning of that pack, the speed that those guys go, and I don't know if this is the right time to tell you, but we went to a spot early in the race where there was a 90-degree turn, and the course went across several tram tracks, and it was raining. And the combination of all those things said, all right, well,
Mm.
this is not going to be a good idea. I will spare you the details, but after about 15 minutes, we went back home again and said, this is not good for our mental health to see so many people going down. So I'm just going to ask you to please, please, please take it easy on those turns,
Yes.
because I don't know how you guys do it at that speed. It's really, my hat's off to you guys. That to me looks crazy for all the crazy things that I do.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for the heads up. I definitely won't be going as fast as them. They are speed skaters. I'll be in the back of the pack, but
Okay.
I will definitely I will watch out for those turns.
Yeah, it's but fascinating, and I love it. That's why our initial conversation, we got to work with each
Mm-hmm.
other over kind of a 36 hour period,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really nice when you have these conversations about what other people are doing. And I got to tell you, just hearing you talk about that, if it's not inline skating, it's going to be something else. So you're inspiring me to, let's look even wider. Let's see if there's something else that we can do. Let's see, because who's going to tell us no?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Who's going to tell us that we're too old? Who's going to tell us that we're too slow? Who's going to tell us that we can't get there? I have limited funds, so I have to work things out. And like I said, I fold myself into a middle seat in the back of an airplane, but I can get to places really far away. And you figure out a fun thing for me to do. And if you're good company, then probably just sign me up, because chances are I'm going to come join you.
Oh, all right. All right then.
Yeah.
Listen. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Enjoying our lives, enjoying these experiences, these activities, these hobbies that are good for us, mentally and physically. Like I I just love that I'm so into biking. Like I bike because it's fun. I bike, yeah, because of fitness, but it's fun. And it can take me places that a car can't take me. I can same thing with inline skating. Same thing with hiking. Like I get something out of all these activities, and I just hope the listeners and my friends and family have something. It doesn't have to be exactly, it doesn't have to be cycling, doesn't have to be hiking, but whatever they do, hopefully it brings them joy, and they enjoy it, and it brings them some, like, if it's good for your fitness, great. If it's good for your mental, excellent. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, no, and I think the mental part of it is so big. Like I said, what the scuba diving does, it puts me at peace. What the running does is it releases all the kind of the bottom layers of my mood. I can be in the crappiest mood in the world. 2 miles into a run, everything is lifted.
mm-hmm.
You hike to the top of that mountain. Yeah, you're suffering because you're going up and everything else, but you get to that. You get to that view, or you make a turn. I'll tell you another funny story, that while I was traveling around the world, uh, I did this 5-day hike around the Wilson's Promontory, and it was just south of Melbourne in Australia, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a, tip of this most southern tip of Australia, I think, of the mainland. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but and either day 2 or day 3, every day you kind of like sleep a little bit in from an alcove off the beach, and then you go up and over a ridge and then kind of get down again. So it's about 7:30 in the morning, and we've started hiking because it's going to be a hot day and we want to get the uphill part over with. And there's all these switchbacks, and I'm a little bit ahead of my travel partner, and I make this switchback. And as I make this switchback, there's a kangaroo on the switchback above me that is doing the exact opposite one of me. And there we are standing in front of each other, and neither of us know what to do, right? Because I'm not supposed to be there, and I certainly was not expecting the kangaroo. And I'd heard that those animals can get pretty vicious, so I certainly wasn't going to get any closer to it. But we just stood there for 30 seconds, and then eventually the kangaroo turned around and kind of like jumped into the bush and went off, because obviously it's a lot more agile than I am. I mean, I was in a good mood for 3 days after that, because look what just happened. I
Yeah.
ran into a kangaroo in the wild. And the only way I could have done it is by hiking for 3 days straight.
Hmm.
And that's where those things come from. And there's no guarantees. I go into the ocean, people say, like, what are you hoping to see? I said, well, I'm hoping to be down there. And whatever comes my way, comes my way. Uh, keep the expectations where you're going to be happy no matter what you're doing, and that anything that comes around is just going to be a bonus. And so, the more you get out there, the more bonuses you get, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's it. And in this case, all this traveling, all these activities, I've met such wonderful people, such as yourself. I understand we're going to be working together again this November, and I cannot wait. I can't wait to see my new friends at the start of the New York City Marathon. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, and so the experiences just get better and better and better, and it's just because we lead active lifestyles. We get all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. What words of encouragement, if you have any, would you give to someone scared to start their journey to fitness, start these new activities? What words of encouragement or advice would you give them?
Well, the advice would be to not compare yourself to somebody else. I'm lucky enough that I'm old enough where the internet came a little bit later, and
Mm,
I don't feel like I'm as affected by it. But I was walking down the street yesterday, and overheard a couple of younger people talking about an event, and they said how many influencers are coming, and it just got me to think of like, oh God, what if you have to try and compare your fitness to what you see
mm,
on the internet? That sounds like a really scary thing. I look like a 52-year-old man. I'm never going to look like a 30-year-old man, because I'm not 30 years old.
right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So to try and compare myself to somebody that I can't be is going to be a discouragement. So the advice I'm going to give is be who you are. Love who you are. Love what you can accomplish. Love what it is that you can do. And try not to work on somebody else's standards, right? It's your journey. You got to do what feels good for you, and every step that you take is a good one.
Hmm.
That's really what it is. Fitness is for everybody. It just takes as many different forms as there are people.
Mm, I like that. I got to write that down. Fitness is for everyone. I like that.
Well, there you go. I mean, look at it. You can inline skate. I can snowboard, right? And here we are, and we're doing the same thing. We're just going about it differently.
Right. Yep. Yep. Find what works for you.
Yeah, and keep looking, right? And so if you find that something doesn't work for you, I know people who've tried to run and they hate it.
Yeah.
Well, why keep doing it,
Right.
right? What I keep coming back to now is something that I've found over the last year and a half, and I touched on it earlier, is the core work, right? I used to, set up these videos of, try and follow this video for 20 minutes. And I'd be bathing in sweat and, stick with it for a month. And then a day or two would come around where I couldn't get it done and, kind of fall off the wagon. I now set my limits so low that I do like literally 10 minutes, max 15 minutes a day. And I've learned to love it. And now,
Mm,
because I love it, it's been a year and a half. And I swear, my lower back pain is gone.
mm.
My shoulder aches are gone. My neck pain is gone. All the things that you see most everybody walk around, people who spend too much time in front of computers and everything else, 15 minutes a day was the answer for me. I had to keep it so that it, on a daily basis, it almost felt like a joke. I do 10 push-ups. I could do 50,
Yeah,
but if I do 50, I'm going to exhaust myself. I'm not going to want to do it the next day. So I
yeah.
do 10 every day, and I'm good to go.
There you go. There you go. Listen, I can't. I barely could do one, so I'm gonna start with
Well,
the.
but that's exactly what I mean, right? Barely one, get on your knees, right? Get
Yeah,
on your knees and do the knee push-ups and
yeah,
see if you can do 5 of those. And if you can do 5 of those, do those every day.
yeah.
You'll find if you look hard and you are kind to yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'll find a level that you can continue on with. And I mean, to me, especially when I hear somebody like you and I know how fit you are. And you say, I barely could do a push up. I can, believe me. Text me every day. I will give you something to do every day. And 3 months from now, you're going to look back at it and say, I can only do one. And
Right? Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So these are all steps on a ladder. We just have to figure out what your ladder is.
yeah. You're right, man. Case, thank you so much.
Oh, my,
Thank,
my pleasure. I love it. I could talk this way for hours, I feel.
thank you. Now we have to have you back on. I'm gonna have you back on the podcast definitely after your race. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, it's it's interesting. So I'm looking at about a 3 hour and 30 minute race if all goes well. Let me knock on wood there.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's a lot of time to think, right? And I don't run with music because I want to take in the crowds and I want to hear my breathing and I want to be with my thoughts. But for me, the most intimidating part that's coming is the 3.5 hour part. So I've got to mentally start breaking that down into chunks and start melting away the miles. Or in this case, I guess I'm going to switch to kilometers since I'm going to Europe,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm not real familiar with running to anymore. But I'm going to just try it as a mental exercise. I'm going to melt those kilometers away and see if I can kind of keep myself in a good headspace for 3.5 hours. And if that works out the way I want to, it's going to be a hell of a party week afterwards.
Nice. Yes. Take lots of pictures. Um, and I don't even know if we're following each other on Instagram, but after this, I will follow you. Um, so I can see
Yeah, you're making me be better at posting things on Instagram. This is where I think sometimes the generation gap comes in a little bit. I'm a little bit too much Facebook, and I
yeah.
understand that Instagram is a better place to be. So if you follow me, I'll do a better job at posting there instead.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
How about that?
Yes. All right. Yeah. Deal. I will
Try,
definitely follow you.
try and get a little bit better at everything every day.
That's right.
Yeah, so
That
that's
is
it.
absolutely right. Yep. 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 Again, I want to say thanks for being a guest. Best of luck on Sunday. Looking forward to your pictures of your medal, pictures of you just completing it, and looking forward to seeing what you have going on next.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Of course, of course. This is the Rolling with Tay podcast. I'm your host, Tasia, aka Tay, and thanks for listening.